Delighted to say that Lord McKinley, Craig McKinley, joins us now. He's a Conservative peer, former Tory MP, and joins us on the line to talk about, well, lots of the big stories of the news. Very, very good afternoon to you.
Good to see you again, Julia.
Apologies coming to you a bit late, but I'm sure you were interested in the call we just had from Sam and talking about how, HMRC, and as I say, they'll go after small businesses, legitimate businesses. Oh, you claim some furlough cash, but they think they shouldn't. Doesn't sound to me like they were working, posting full tweets over. It doesn't sound like a job to me. But at the same time, not going after channel migrants, illegally working, sometimes within hours of arriving in the country, living in taxpayer-funded accommodation, either asylum hotel or private accommodation, basically operating on sort of subcontracted contracts for the Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Just Eat and the others to ride around delivering food. Happening in plain sight, parking their bikes outside the asylum hotels. It's really obvious what's going on. They're not allowed to work. Everyone knows they're not allowed to work. People running these things know they're not to work. HMRC investigate people like Sam and his wife and don't go after Uber Eats and Just Eat and Deliveroo. What's going on?
Well, if you employ an illegal immigrant on a PAYE type business, then the fine can be up to £20,000 per
Not enough
employee. But I mean, that's fairly lumpy amount. I mean, frankly, they should be doing exactly the same to these delivery companies, because this whole gig economy is now, frankly, a racket. I mean, this was alerted to me actually some years ago, and I did pass it on to the powers that be through the Home Office.
Yeah.
There was an employee in Parliament said to me, do you know what? I live around the corner from an asylum hotel, and there are these Deliveroo, Just Eat, Uber Eats bikes all over the place. So, I mean, this is in total plain sight. Now, I mean, I could think of some means of extracting who the illegals are out of this, because they must be operating through common bank accounts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're claiming it's probably family members, friends members.
Yeah.
They're giving the details, but also this right to substitution is completely open.
I mean, that's the problem, is it? So they exploit a loophole. So someone is given an account, they have to go through and prove that they can work there. But so the legitimate account holder is allowed to sublet the work, and even though signing up for an account is free. So one group has 20,000 members, and they've got dozens of posts a day advertising the accounts. We're requiring no documents whatsoever. So an undercover Sun reporter posing as an arrival from Afghanistan was offered an account 10 minutes after signing up. And when asked if having no documents was a problem, one Deliveroo dealer, as he called himself, said, "You will not be caught, Allah willing." I mean, so they top up, they get cash. I mean, presumably presumably a cut is taken when the money is paid by these companies. But again, these companies must know, because when someone has they've got these accounts, they must know that their money is going, huge sums of money are going to one bank account that couldn't possibly be one Deliveroo driver unless he had 40 different bikes and was working 365 days a year, 24/7.
Well, I find it hard to believe. There must be some sort of Nelsonian blind eye going on within these companies, because it doesn't take the brains of a rocket scientist to actually.
The brains of you mean the brains of an illegal migrant, because they're all rocket scientists. But I mean, did you get that memo?
We scratch our heads and wondering why Britain is such an attractive destination for illegal migrants. And when you're given a nice hotel, I understand, 4-star hotels. I've got a friend who's tried to book up a hotel that he uses all the time near Heathrow Airport for work, 4-star, very nice, and told, no, sorry, can't take these bookings anymore because we've been taken over by the Home Office.
I thought we were told, certainly under your lot, the Tories, that no more 4-star hotels would be used.
Well, I'm afraid this was a 4-star hotel.
They've redesignated themselves. They're identifying as a 3-star.
Only a few months ago. So it's obviously happening, and people are coming to the UK with a very nice accommodation, and then the opportunity to earn, whatever you earn, less than 20% tax you've got to pay someone, plus 10% cut for using their anonymous ID. I can but guess. Yeah. But just on the back of what some of your previous person said, I mean, I was on Public Accounts Committee for some 3 years. It's it's a good committee. It does try and unpeel the layers of mess that's happening.
Oh, the Public Accounts Committee, under whoever's chairing it, has actually embarrassed the nation, the national government on many an occasion.
No, absolutely. No, just let me get. I mean, as you know, I'm chartered accountant, chartered tax advisor. In days of old, good old days, you had a local tax office, and the tax inspector might have belonged to the local Rotary Club. He walked up the high street getting his sandwich. He was part, or he or she, part and parcel of the local
Yeah,
community, and they could see the dodgy ones.
yeah.
But now the HMRC offices are in the middle of nowhere on an industrial estate in some vast building. They have
And
absolutely no
everyone's working
interaction
from home on Zoom.
and probably on home. I can actually bear that out when I'm in my practice. I've been on the phone waiting a very long time to get through to somebody, and you can hear the dog barking and all the
Yeah.
rest of it going on in the background. But anyway, that aside, they are not interacting with people anymore. So on any decent high street now, you will have a multitude of frauds going on.
Yeah.
And I'll let you
The
guess which.
barber shops, the nail bars,
Exactly.
the car
So
washes.
number one, they're not ringing up the take, so there's a VAT fraud. They're not ringing up the take, so there is an income tax or corporation tax fraud. If they do have staff on payroll legitimately, they're paying them a small amount legitimately through payroll, and the rest of it in all this cash that's not being rung up for VAT and income tax purposes. And then those employees are claiming universal credit based on a low PAYE.
Yeah.
And this is happening on a wholesale basis across every single high street in the UK, but HMRC are not looking at these. I know they're only the small end of things, but if you were to do a few, I bet the old message would go through the local Facebook community that HMRC are bearing down on this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We have a virtually Wild West Britain in some of these respects, and loophole after loophole after loophole is being exploited.
And again, all
For the
that
rest of
tax
us-
that's not coming in, and then the rest of us are having to pay more tax to pay for everything.
Well, and
you know,
also
you know what Tony Blair would say the solution was, don't you?
No,
Digital
what would
ID
that-
cards.
Well, yeah, there is that, but I'm afraid they'll find a loophole around
Of
that.
course they will.
You
They've
don't
got
care-
ID cards across most of Europe. That hasn't solved the problem there.
Well, I think we have a multitude of problems in the UK. Number one, we're giving them a very, very good accommodation. Number two, it's very easy to work. And number three, actually, is so easy to work, possibly because of the ID card lack of in the UK.
Yeah.
But as I say, there'd be a loophole. Cash exists, and as you can see, when you have your car wash, you see the barber shops. I mean, I'm afraid it doesn't need.
I don't think there are that many men who need their hair cut that often. That's what I can say. I want to get to
Well,
two
no,
of the
you go
topics.
through a little village. You go through a little village, and you've got 4 barber shops have sprung
Yeah,
up over the last
exactly.
year.
I desperately want to get to 2 more topics. I want to mention this Qatari camel herder. And it's just extraordinary. Nasser Al Garanki, he's been jailed for 7 years, not enough, for sexually assaulting a woman at a heart clinic. For some reason, no one can understand why a 27-year-old Qatari camel herder had travelled to Britain for treatment for a rare heart condition. I mean, I'm assuming camel herding pays very well in Qatar. But I thought they had pretty good hospitals in Qatar. That's why all the Hamas leadership were there. But he tried to rape a woman in a hospital in Chelsea. He then blamed it on in his defence in court as he's had little interaction with women in his home country. Only woman he was ever alone with was his mother. We're not allowed to spend time with women otherwise. And I don't know whether he thinks that sexually assaulting his mother in a bathroom would be normal behaviour. But that was the defence given. And the thing that strikes me about this is, A, what the hell was this guy doing in our country? B, 7 years ain't enough for what he done. So C, crucially, why is it when we point out things like the key cultural differences between people from different countries, certain countries, particularly in the Middle East, others who come to this country and don't have the same values and attitudes, particularly towards women when they come here, why is it if I point that out, I'm a bigot, but if his defence lawyer points it out, it's a legitimate cultural difference?
Well, this is the whole thing. I'm afraid cultural differences just are almost insurmountable. Yet you raise the right questions. What was he doing here? I think Qatar has got quite a generous health system that if you can't have the treatment locally, they may actually put you on a plane to come to the UK and have it done. That's not uncommon in some of these oil-rich countries. I wonder where Qatar got all its money from us, because we're too stupid to mine our own gas and oil. But that's a question for another day. But yeah, these cultural differences are difficult to bridge. And you're quite right. It is women who bear the brunt of this, because the divide is a large one, and the freedoms, thank heavens, that we have for all of us, including women in the UK, have been long won, evolved over a very long time. But here we are, willing to almost give that away on the altar of cultural correctness and acceptance and all of those other good things. I'm sorry to say, Julia, it does not work. And you only have to look at the broader figures, and the Home Office have been pushed into actually having to
dragged,
publish.
kicking and screaming.
They're going to have to publish them in the future, but the figures that we do know exist. There is a disproportionate amount of certain cultures and countries that are at the heart of many of these sexual offences.
And by a huge percentage. Well, just finally, I want to get you this extraordinary situation where 108 Labour MPs, including 12 committee chairs, have basically, said they're going to sign a motion, an amendment to the government's welfare reform bill, which in my view doesn't go far enough in itself, but they're going to try and basically stop it in its entirety. It includes 12 committee chairs, so we're talking about senior MPs, but it completely blows a hole in the side of the Labour working majority of 165 MPs. First of all, your reaction to that rebellion from Labour MPs, and secondly, will this mean that the welfare reform can't go through?
Oh, well, I'd like to see a good rebellion. It'd be a really good one.
As a serial rebel.
Well, not really. I did it at the right time for the right moment.
I agree.
And if they feel that this is one that they've got to take a stand on, I don't agree with them, because I think we have got a serious problem with the escalation of benefits, which just only seems to go in one direction. I've said for many years, if you can get our benefit system right, then we're well on the track to actually solving a lot of problems in this country. Problems of worklessness, problems of mental health issues.
Maybe these people could go and get jobs as Uber Eats drivers and delivery drivers.
Well,
there's lots going.
Yeah, problem of the pressure that we seem to perpetually have of importing more and more people under legitimate visas for jobs that we don't seem to be able to fill in the UK. So get benefits right. I think we're well on track to do the right thing. But unfortunately, amongst the Labour Party, and I've worked with them for many years, some of them believe absolutely in universal basic income. And they can see that the gradual evolution of our benefit system is inexorably going towards creating a universal basic income.
That's where they go. Can I ask you, as somebody, look, and everyone will know you've on the show regularly when you were a Conservative MP, and then you left the Commons and you decided not to stand for election again after you just suffered the most awful infection and led to you having the amputation of all four of your extremities of your limbs. I mean, that is a disability no one would ever question. I know different people can respond differently to these things. You seem to have just the most incredible strength of character and will to continue life and in public life. What do you make, though, of the claims, the idea that we are a uniquely disabled and sick society that needs to have something like 1 in 8 working age people on disability benefits, when you yourself have what no one would question as a physical disability?
I don't believe we're more ill as a nation than any other, well, quite frankly, any other country on this planet, seemingly. We have a higher proportion of people on long-term sickness, on PIP, on disability benefits than anybody else. The reason we've got a lot of people on PIP assessment, it even goes down to people who are alcoholics, that are obese, all sorts of conditions that you wouldn't call would be traditional full disability issues. Anxiety. If you claim that you're feeling suicidal, that is a guaranteed route into getting your PIP assessment. There are apparently training sessions online that people can actually watch and use the words that you need to get the golden ticket at the end of the day. We're being taken for absolute fools. I've got 4 of these, and I go to work every single day of the week. I get on the tube, I get on the train, and I get through the network and I go to work. Okay, I'm not going to be a builder anytime soon, but I certainly can manage the cerebral jobs that I tasked myself to do. I'm also in practice as a chartered accountant for the 4th day of the week, that if I'm not in Parliament, and I'm also the director of the Global Warming Policy Foundation. So I actually hold down 3 sort of jobs. I can do it. For heaven's sake, Britain, get off your backside and do it again.
Craig McKinley, Lord McKinley, Conservative peer, thank you so much. Always so great to have you on the show.